Well, for some analysis, we can speak now to Thomas Konig, a professor of political science at the University of Mannheim. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Can you first just explain why the AfD is so popular in Eastern Germany?
There are multiple reasons. One is about the frustration with the current federal government. That's the most cited issue, why people support, not only, by the way, the AfD, she's the far-right party, which is likely to win, but there's also a left-wing nationalist party, Sarah Wagenknecht, who will become second in both countries or in both states. So more or less, it's about a majority of voters who support this nationalist new way of politics in those states.
And I understand that those parties are particularly popular in the East in particular. Can you explain kind of some of the reasons? I mean, why does Germany remain divided due to its World War II legacy?
It's not only World War II. Of course, there are some historical reasons, but when we look more closely, both parties campaign against a German basic principle of the post-war time, namely the Western orientation of Germany. So they are in favor of collaborating or at least finding a peace solution with Vladimir Putin's Russia. That's one big issue in Eastern Germany. A second is, of course, migration. And so it's more or less the question about whether more migrants should come to Germany.
And you mentioned that left-wing party led by Sarah Wagenknecht. What can you tell us about them and how they're shaping the political dynamic? And what is their relationship with the AfD?
If you think about a kind of a two-dimensional perspective, you have two nationalist parties, one on the left-hand side, that's Sarah Wagenknecht. She's a former left-wing party leader, and now she has created her own party. And from one day to another, or within 8 months, she finds support by about 15% of the voters. That's really surprising. And the topics she is addressing are very similar to those of the AfD, namely a nationalist way of migration and also more or less a more peaceful collaboration with Russia, re-importing energy from Russia, and also stopping the support, the military support of Ukraine.
And is there any chance that we could see those two parties decide to work together?
That's very unlikely. From, let's say, our studies, we know that this support of both parties is more an emotional support. So the people really love Sarah Wagenknecht on the one side, and also the AfD leader Björn Höcke, who is a really right-wing person, on the other side, but they don't like each other. So, and therefore, it's very unlikely that the two will form a coalition. It's more likely that Sarah Wagenknecht will become decisive in forming a government, at least in Thuringia, where at the moment, at least, we expect that there will no party be able to form the government alone.
And given that expectation that there are going to be negotiations taking place, I mean, what do you imagine that the new government is going to look like, or is there going to be deadlock?
Deadlock not, but we have already in Thuringia, we have a minority coalition. That would be one solution. And the other would be that we find a new way, like, let's say, between Sarah Wagenknecht, the CDU, and some other party like the SPD, that will form a government in Thuringia. In Saxony, it's a little bit different because there is a very popular CDU minister-president, so it's likely that he will continue to form a government with the SPD and the Greens, perhaps.
All right, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Thomas Konig, thank you again so much for your analysis today. That's Thomas Konig, a professor of political science at the University of Mannheim.